What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about what is happening in Sudan, all these protests. You might know much if you don't live in Sudan. So I'm here to tell you everything that has happened since December or over the last 6 months. So back in the 12th of December 2018, huge wide-scale anti-government protests broke out in Sudan for reasons such as steep price hikes and shortages, resource shortage, currency devaluation, and high inflation rates, and much more. These protesters used methods such as peaceful demonstrations, strike action, riots, sit-ins, which we'll get into later, online activism, and arson. These demonstrations, strikes, and riots were all peaceful, of course, with slogans such as "We are all Darfur," "Just fall, that's all," or "تسقط بس" in Arabic, "Freedom, peace, and justice," or "حرية, سلام, وعدالة, وثورة خيال الشعب." Okay. At first, these protests were demands for urgent political reforms, but then they turned into demands for President Omar al-Bashir for his shortage of human rights, political repression, and much more. Now keep in mind, I said president, but this guy has been in office for 30 years. He's not a president. He's a dictator. And as you expect, these demonstrations were met with violence from security forces and police, who used tear gas grenades and sound bombs, rubber bullets, and live ammunition to disperse demonstrators, causing dozens of deaths, injuries, and hundreds arrested. And by the 7th of January, over 800 anti-government protesters were arrested and 19 people were killed. Okay. And at that point, everything just went to complete and utter bullcrap. And fast forward almost 2 months of media press conflict and many more protests and demonstrations. Al-Bashir declared an year-long state of national emergency on February 22nd. Bashir also announced the dissolving of both central and regional governments, replacing regionals with military generals, choosing the likes of Muhammad Tahir Ayala as Prime Minister and Awad bin Auf as first Vice President. His intelligence chief also announced that he would not seek re-election in 2020 for the National Congress Party, but Omar al-Bashir has done that multiple times. He has said that multiple times, and he has still done nothing. So, still nobody believed this. In March, 2 very amazing things happened that sent a message to al-Bashir and his government. On the 6th of March 2019, a cleaning day was organized. People went out in the streets and cleaned up throughout the day, showing that the new government will be cleaner and more transparent than this very corrupt government. And the next day, March the 7th, protests were organized to honor women for their huge role in the uprising. The next day, al-Bashir released all the women who were arrested due to previous protests and demonstrations. An entire month later, on the 6th of April, days after Algeria's Abdelaziz Bouteflika was forced to step down due to the mass Algerian protests, the Sudanese Professionals Association, also aka the Jamal Mehniyin, called for a march to the military headquarters, aka Al-Qiyada Al-Amma. Hundreds of thousands of people answered their call, even though it was very hard to break through and get in due to security forces divisions between every direction that led to the headquarters. that attacked the protesters and threw tear gas grenades at them. They still managed to do it. All the while, social media was briefly blocked for about an hour, and the electricity for most of the day. Eventually, the mokib turned into the sit-in, aka the Atisam we all know today. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, on April 11th, al-Bashir was deposed as the President of the Republic of Sudan, and all protesters who were incarcerated due to their previous demonstrations and protests were released from jail, and it was all a happy ending, or so we thought. Now look, the next morning, the new president of the Transitional Military Government, or the TMC, or Al-Miris aka Al-Miris al-Askari, was Awad bin Auf, a man accused of many war crimes, if not as many as Omar al-Bashir. Thankfully though, he was ousted a mere 24 hours later due to intense protests that spread. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan was the one to succeed him, which left most of the country jubilant over the victory in their uprising, as he had no action in war crimes and is not wanted by international courts. But again, should we have been happy? I mean, it was Bin Auf who chose him to succeed. So wouldn't he have chosen someone, or at least talked him to somewhat continue the regime? Because these guys never want to let go of this, ever. So people were still skeptical about him, and they turned out to be right. Over the next 2 months, until June, it was shown refusing to bypass some god-awful laws, refusing to lift the state of emergency for a brief period of time, choosing some god-awful people for other roles in the government, like Himeti and Kabashi, and most importantly, not giving power to the civilians. So protests began to spark quickly, and new, almost practically useless announcements were made at a daily rate. On the 30th of May, Qatari-based news agency Al Jazeera, who generally spoke the most truth at the fastest rate, announced that the Sudanese authorities had revoked their right to broadcast directly from Sudan and shut down their general building. So most people thought that at least this was to delay new announcements in Sudan that could be broadcasted to the rest of the world, but the worst was yet to come, and the reasons why were soon shown. On the 3rd of June, the Khartoum massacre occurred in the Atisam. As a result, an estimate of 118 people were killed, but that number was debunked to around 60. But many were left severely injured mentally or physically. It came to as far as the security forces shooting a rocket launcher near a nearby hospital where people escaped to. The next day, internet was completely shut down, and only a select few routers and SIM cards were still working. Soon after, Tajum al-Mihnin called for complete civil disobedience, or isyan, in all workplaces in Sudan. For the next months, it was all the same. Ongoing negotiations between the TMC, Miris al-Askari, the SPA, Tajum al-Mihnin, and the FFC, Forces of Freedom and Change, or قوة الحرية والتغيير. And there were still ongoing protests in the streets, and even a mokib on the 30th of June. On the 5th of June, with the help of the African Union and a few Ethiopian mediators, a verbal deal was reached by the TMC and the FFC, which I will be listing the most important stuff. The creation of an 11-member council with 5 military members, 5 civilians, and 1 floater that could settle an argument or etc. A transitional period of 3 years and 3 months. The first 21 months led by a military member and the 18 rest by a civilian, and a democratic election to follow after. A cabinet of ministers chosen by the FFC and a legislative council. An investigation following the events of the military coup and the Khartoum massacre. Fast forward again a few negotiations later to the 29th of July when the Al Ubaid massacre took place, where the RSF or the Rapid Support Forces shot live ammunition at students in Al Ubaida protesting about stoppage of transportation due to fuel shortages, drinking water outages, increasing commodity prices, and the unavailability of bread. 4 students and 1 teacher died, and 40 to 50 were wounded, 8 of them in serious condition. 20,000 people demonstrated in Khartoum the same day. 2 days later, on the 1st of August, another massacre occurred in which 4 protesters were shot dead in Umbidda by government forces. And thank God, finally we're done here. On the 4th of August, Himeti of the TMC and Ahmed Rabi of the FFC signed the draft constitutional declaration along with the political agreement on the 17th of July. This defines the all brand new Sovereignty Council, which concludes of 5 military members, 5 civilians, and 1 extra floater. The official dissolution of the TMC and the appointment of the Sovereignty Council took place on August 20. Abdullah Hamdok was appointed Prime Minister and Nemat Abdullah Khair was appointed Chief Justice on the 21st. And that is where we're gonna end it. And we're done with the video. I wish the best of luck for Hamdok, and I believe he can guide our country to greatness once again, just like in the past, and I pray he does. I mean, he could do it. He's a very good person. I believe in him, but I pray he does. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. This video took so long. I would appreciate a like and subscribe. I could say that, but I'm just so tired. This video took so long. Okay, well, bye.